To all the viewers, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me. My name is Evelyn Harper, though most folks around here just call me Mrs. Harper, or sometimes just that lady in the corner. I'm 87 now, sitting in this faded blue armchair in the common room of Willow Creek Nursing Home. The TV's always on some game show nobody watches, and the air smells like disinfectant mixed with overcooked peas. I've got a window view of the parking lot where families pull up on weekends with balloons and kids and loud laughter. They bustle past me to see their own, hugs, kisses, stories swapped like trading cards. I smile at 'em when they glance my way, 'cause that's what you do. But inside, I wonder where mine went. All those years I gave pieces of myself away, and now I'm left holding nothing but memories and this thin blanket on my lap. I wasn't always this quiet old woman waiting for the clock to run out. Let me tell you how it really was. Maybe talking it out loud in my head will make the ache smaller. Or maybe it won't. Either way, it's my story, and I've got nothing left but time. I was born in 1938, right here in central Ohio, in a little town called Milford that barely shows up on maps anymore. My daddy worked the assembly line at the GM plant in Dayton, and Mama took in laundry. We didn't have much, but we had each other. I learned early that helping wasn't a choice. It was just what decent people did. When the neighbor's barn burned down, we all showed up with hammers. When Mrs. Kowalski's husband died, Mama made casseroles for a month. That's how I grew up. I married young, 19, to Tommy Harper, the sweetest boy you ever met. He had those blue eyes that crinkled when he smiled and hands that could fix anything. We bought a small 3-bedroom house on Elm Street with a big porch and a backyard that sloped down to a creek. Tommy worked construction. I waitressed at the diner on Main. We had 2 kids, our daughter Ruth in 1960 and our son Daniel 2 years later. Life was good, simple but good. Then Tommy got sick, lung cancer from all those years breathing dust on job sites. He fought for 18 months. I worked double shifts, sold pies out of our kitchen, took in ironing. The church helped some, neighbors brought meals. But in the end, it was just me holding his hand when he slipped away in 1985. I was 47. The kids were grown enough to hurt, but not grown enough to help much. Ruth was in college. Daniel was in the Army. I buried Tommy next to his parents, sold his truck to pay the medical bills, and kept going, 'cause that's what you do. The real testing years came later. First, it was the Great Recession, 2008. I was 70 by then, living on Social Security and a tiny pension from Tommy's union. The whole town felt like it was sinking. The GM plant closed for good. Construction dried up. Families I'd known my whole life were losing their homes. I watched it from my kitchen window, foreclosure signs popping up like weeds. One evening in October, the Carlsons knocked on my door. Mark and Lisa and their 3 little ones. Mark had been laid off from the factory. Lisa's hours at the grocery store got cut. The bank took their house. They'd been sleeping in their van for 2 nights. I didn't think twice. "Come on in," I said. "There's plenty of room." I gave them Ruth's old room and the basement. I cooked big pots of chili and cornbread, shared my Social Security check, cut it 4 ways instead of 1. Lisa cried when I handed her money for the kids' shoes. Mark fixed things around my house in return, replaced the leaky faucet, patched the roof. They stayed 8 months until Mark found work in Columbus. When they left, Lisa hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would crack. "You saved us, Mrs. Harper," she whispered. I just patted her back. Saving people wasn't something I planned. It just happened when I saw need. Word got around. People started calling me Saint Evelyn behind my back, then to my face. I hated it. Saints don't cuss when they burn supper or cry themselves to sleep missing their husband, but the name stuck. Then came the tornado in 2012. An F3 tore through the county one spring night, took roofs off houses, flipped cars like toys. Our little town looked like a war zone the next morning, power out for weeks. I opened my doors again. The Red Cross set up at the high school, but some folks needed quieter places. The Ramirez family, mom, dad, 4 kids, and grandma, lost everything. Their trailer was gone. They came to me with nothing but the clothes on their backs and a plastic bag of photos. I turned my living room into a dormitory. Air mattresses, sleeping bags on the floor. I cooked on a camp stove in the backyard, shared my generator with the neighbors. Every day I drove my old Buick to the shelter to volunteer, sorting donations, ladling soup, holding crying babies so their mamas could shower. My check got split 8 ways that month. I ate a lot of oatmeal. Grandma Ramirez, her name was Sophia, slept in my bed with me. She spoke mostly Spanish, but we understood each other just fine. She'd pat my hand at night and say, "Gracias, Angel," angel. I'd laugh softly and tell her I was no angel, just a stubborn old woman who hated seeing people hurt. One night, little Miguel, he was 6, woke up screaming from nightmares. I rocked him on the porch until he fell asleep against my shoulder. His warm weight reminded me of holding my own babies. I cried quiet tears into his hair. Sophia found us there at dawn and wrapped a blanket around us both. They stayed with me 4 months while FEMA dragged its feet. When they finally moved into a new place, the whole family came back one Sunday with tamales and hugs. Sophia gave me a little silver cross necklace. I still wear it, tucked under my gown here. There were others, the young couple with the newborn when the floods came in 2017, the single dad whose wife left him during COVID, taking the kids' sense of safety with her. I took them in too, fed them, listened to them, prayed with them. My house was never empty for long. My own kids, they moved away. Ruth married a man in California, tech money, big house, 2 grandbabies I've only met on screens. Daniel stayed in the Army, retired to Florida with his wife. They called on birthdays, sent cards at Christmas, came home maybe once every couple years. I understood. Life pulls you where it pulls you. I never wanted to be a burden. But as the years added up, my body started betraying me. Arthritis in my hands so bad I couldn't button my own blouse. Mini strokes that left me dizzy. Falls. The doctor said I couldn't live alone anymore. My kids had a family meeting over Zoom because flying in was complicated. They decided on Willow Creek. "It's the best we can afford, Mom," Ruth said, voice cracking a little. "We'll visit as soon as we can." The distant relatives stepped in to handle the paperwork, cousins twice removed I hadn't seen since Tommy's funeral. They sold my house quick, said the market was hot, packed my things into a few boxes. I kept Sophia's cross, Tommy's wedding ring on a chain, and my photo albums. Everything else went to auction or the dump. I've been here 3 years now. The staff are kind enough. They help me to the bathroom, bring my pills on time, call me sweetie, but it's not home. My room is small, shared with Mrs. Jenkins, who talks to people who aren't there. Meals come on trays. I spend most days in this common room, watching. Families come for others, grandkids running wild, daughters bringing homemade cookies, sons pushing wheelchairs out to the garden. I smile and nod when they speak to me.
Sometimes they ask if I need anything. I always say no. Ruth video calls every few months, promises they're planning a trip. Daniel sends emails about the grandkids' soccer games. The cousins sent flowers once, when I first moved in. Nothing since. I'm not angry, truly. I know they have lives, jobs, kids, mortgages. Flying to Ohio isn't cheap or easy. I raised them to be independent. That's what mothers do. You give them roots and wings, then watch them fly. But some nights, when the halls are quiet and the pain meds wear off, I sit here and wonder, did I give too much away? Did I teach the wrong lesson, that love means always saying yes, always opening the door, always putting yourself last? I look at the empty chair beside me where no one ever sits, and I pray the same quiet prayer I've prayed for months now.
Lord, I've lived a long life. I've done what I could. If it's time, I'm ready. Let me go gentle. Let this be my last act of mercy, not taking up space someone else might need, not being a burden to children who have their own burdens. Just let me go home to Tommy. I don't say it out loud. The aides would worry, call the social worker. They'd put me on watch, ask questions. So I keep it between me and God. Sometimes I dream I'm back on my porch rocking little Miguel again, or cooking chili while Sophia hums beside me. Tommy's laugh echoes from the garage. All the people I helped wave from the yard, smiling, whole. I wake up here, in this chair, with the game show still blaring. Today is Tuesday. Visiting hours start soon. I smooth my skirt and fold my hands in my lap. Maybe someone will sit with me today. Maybe not. Either way, I'll smile when they pass, because that's what you do. And when the lights dim tonight, I'll pray my quiet prayer again. Lord, I'm ready when you are. This is Evelyn Harper, signing off.